ARY ROSENBAUM here with another fun-filled episode of that 401k podcast. This week's topic, we're going to talk about uh, that not every great 401k sales pitch belongs in every plan, which follows my philosophy of there's nothing out there that is a right fit for every plan sponsor. But of course, first things first, that 401ksite.com, that 401k National Virtual Conference is coming up in February 4th and 5th, I believe, 2027. Go to that 401ksite.com, sign up for free. Got some new sponsors. It's going to be fun. Come August, we will have an idea of where we might end up for live events in 2027. I'm looking at 2 events. Maybe we get 3. It really happens to be dependent on plan provider interest and obviously plan advisor interest as well. Go to Amazon for Kindle paperback versions of the 2 latest books, Full Circle and that 401k Plan Provider Handbook. And let's get to the topic at hand. The retirement plan business loves trends. When I started in this business, the focus was on daily record keeping, daily valuation, participant-directed investments. The internet was in its infancy still in 1998 in terms of like transactions, so we didn't actually have like a functioning website. People still did it over the phone in investments and pen and paper. But that was the focus. That was the push. And then, other things of the last, 28 years. I mean, September will be 28 years I'm in this business, and it's just like, to me, it just, it didn't happen last week that I joined. It didn't happen 10 years ago, but it's not 28 years, but it is. But, something gets in favor, something new and shiny. It's a shiny object, gets there. And, not every shiny object that 401k plans have belongs in every plan. And, number one, one of the newest shiny things is pooled employer plans. It's not a right fit for everybody. As somebody who is a PPP, as somebody who's worked PPP for plans, now in the aggregate hundreds of millions of dollars, contact me if you want me to be PPP. That's a short commercial plug. It's not the right fit for every company out there that has a retirement plan or wants to have one. It's a great fit for small businesses that maybe lack an HR staff. They're small. They have no appetite for fiduciary oversight and whatnot. But not every employer belongs in that, that area of interest in adopting a PEP. Because, listen, I'm a control freak. I'll tell you that much. If you've ever seen my events, I like to run it the way I want to run it. And the events sometimes where I didn't have a say or I had less of a say and I didn't enjoy it as much. And right off the top, Mike Webb wasn't there, but St. Petersburg, I was working with an advisor who helped book the athlete, which was fantastic. Wade Boggs is a great guest, but I had to cut my friend Larry out of it at that point, and I was, dependent on him to bring in people and advisors and companies we did a planned sponsor event, and the attendance was terrible. I mean, the attendance is like, up there with some of the worst attendances I've ever had in a conference, especially, during COVID in 2021 when we did some of those events that were canceled in 2020. And, if you're a plan sponsor or just an employer that likes to have control of things, likes to have a say in how everything is run, the pooled employer plan was not built for you. That's just not for you. And, the entire model of the PEP, it's all about standardization. It's all about rigidity to get it run efficiently. There's nothing worse to me where I set the parameters of a plain document. These are the, to me with a PEP, less choice makes it easier for administration. So for plain documents, I don't want, one adopting employer to say no to hardships. I think they should all say, and then you always brought up by the TPA who's asking you, can we do this? And like, well, the whole point of a PEP was to be a standardized document. Most choices standardized. You should have flexibility for, because different employers have different eligibility, safe harbor, that kind of stuff. But outside of that, normal retirement age should be 65. Loans should be allowed. I mean, because, if you have 75 or 80 choices on a plan document checklist and everybody has the same document checklist, I don't know how you can administer the plan. And you're talking to somebody who knows nothing. Well, I do know about administration in terms of how things could go screwy because I've worked 10 years, but I never worked as a plan administrator. I just can't imagine how you can work that. But, it's not a solution for everybody, and that's the focus of this episode. A PEP doesn't work for every plan sponsor out there, and if you're a plan sponsor, and like I said, you're fairly educated about retirement plans, you want to have your own say in how things are run, you want to have intricate plan design, a PEP is probably not for you. Same thing with Safe Harbor. I love Safe Harbor contributions. When they came out in 1999, God, I love them. I love Safe Harbor. Why do I love Safe Harbor so much? I love the Safe Harbor non-elective more than the match. Here, why? Because of new comparability. The fact that you could use the 3% non-elective to satisfy minimum gateway, that's a home run. I love Safe Harbor because, you satisfy ADP, ACP, and top heavy within obviously limits. If your match is crazy out of the box, you may have to satisfy ECP, which I think is dumb. But, it's a great benefit for companies that are failing testing or for companies that want to have a better tiered approach in rewarding their highly compensated employees. You get people 3%. Top guys can get 9. You go to 5 for the lower paid people. You go to up to the moon for your top paid people, and that 3% Safe Harbor could go towards that. And then if you had to give them 5%, you could give them 2% on a vested schedule. I love that, but it can be an unnecessary expense for people who can't afford can't afford new comparability contributions, can't afford Safe Harbor contributions, and, passing with flying colors. Obviously, there are plans out there that fail, and they just don't have the resources to make up for a Safe Harbor contribution, so they'll accept the refunds of the deferrals for the highly compensated employees. And again, not everybody can afford it. And that's really important. Automatic enrollment. Yes, we know that automatic enrollment is one of those features that many providers sell us as though there could not possibly be an argument against it. Participation increases, employees save more, and the plan looks progressive. All of that can be true, but automatic enrollment is not really magic. It is an operational commitment. Someone has to, track eligibility and this, and that. Obviously, for plans out there that started after Secure 2, you have really no choice in the matter. But, for those who want to add it when something goes wrong and something eventually does, the correction process isn't fun at all. Missed deferral opportunity corrections, employer contributions, lost earning calculations, participant notices, and compliance cleanups quickly replace the cheerful implementation meeting. Automatic enrollment works beautifully when operations are disciplined. When payroll feeds are messy, census data is unreliable, or provider execution is weak, automatic enrollment becomes like everything else, a correction factory. Participant brokerage counts. Everybody knows how much I don't like them. But whether I like them or not is immaterial. I don't like Crocs, yet people sell Crocs. Crocs still does a good business. I don't think they do as well as they used to, but I've always said my daughter keeps on insisting that when I'm old and have dementia, she'll put Crocs on me. And I've always said that if you see me with Crocs, you'll know that I've given up on life. And that was funny. Everybody knows, well, not everybody knows, but I'm a proud Stony Brook graduate. I went to 3 schools. Stony Brook is my favorite school. by far. And for the longest time, I always wanted to see Stony Brook clothing at Costco, at the local Costco. And, in Nassau County, Hofstra is considered a bigger school because it's right there in Hempstead/Uniondale. So local ones would have Costco, they would have Hofstra wear. And recently, in, I want to say, Comac and Lake Grove, which is right down the road from Stony Brook, they had Stony Brook stuff at Costco, and to me that was a big deal. Yet there was this ugly Champion polo shirt, which was like it was like a Hawaiian polo shirt. It was like orange, I want to say, and Stony Brook colors are navy blue and scarlet, or so that's really what it is. And I said, if you see me with that shirt and Crocs, I've given up on life. But participant brokerage windows are a lot like Crocs. I hate participant-directed brokerage accounts, but there's nothing I can do about it. If a plan sponsor wants one, I don't say, no, you can't have it. Yeah. Listen, this is why I don't think it's a good idea. And if that's what you want, that's what you're going to get. But, most participants aren't very good at, investing. And I want to say the people who want participant brokerage accounts are not the best people to be investing. But that's neither here nor there. Of course, that Fakakta law firm, they had brokerage windows, and I wasn't offered that. And I just want to say that now, 16 years later, participant rights, rights, benefits, and features, that was an issue. But the fact is, most participants aren't institutional investors. They struggle to allocate sensibly among a curated menu of diversified investment options. If you give them access to thousands of choices, it creates confusion, speculation, or complete paralysis. Some participants inevitably chase performance, buy individual stocks. They do not understand their turn retirement investment into a hobby. Providers love selling flexibility because flexibility sounds empowering. In practice, unlimited choice often creates bad participant behavior, customer service headaches, and additional fiduciary concerns that plan sponsors never anticipated. Next on my hit list is the mega backdoor Roth fantasy. We always see these articles about the mega backdoor Roth. Megador sounds like a really awful Godzilla nemesis. Providers love pitching it. Article writers love to pitch it, and it just it doesn't really work out. It involves voluntary after-tax contributions, which I thought they had. It reminds me of back in the day, pre-86, when you have thrift savings plan. Every time that you saw the word thrift, it meant it always meant like an after-tax voluntary contribution. The problem with the mega backdoor Roth strategy is the fact that 999 out of 1,000 times it will not work. It will not work if you have employees who don't, because the after-tax voluntary is subject to the ACP test, and if non-Hileys don't contribute, it's going to fail. So it's a mess, and it's a fantasy. If you have a solo 401k plan, my God, or you're in there with your spouse, or in there with a kid of yours, if it's only a family-only 401k plan, man, that works fantastic. Outside of that, it's just not going to work out. They always push it. I get so many asks about it, not so much anymore, but of course, we talk about the non-discrimination testing complications that result out of it. Next, Bitcoin. When Bitcoin was $125,000, it sounded brilliant. Now that it's as I record this, it's like 59,000. It just doesn't look that all attractive. But as somebody who invests in Bitcoin, and listen, I'm suffering, but dollar cost averaging and all that stuff, it was never a good idea to begin with. When it was 19,000 or 125,000. It's a volatile investment. It's a weapon of mass destruction for investors who have poor decision making. You and I might be dollar cost averaging folks, and we know a thing or two about it. I assume the people that listen to this podcast know a thing or two about investments. You don't have to be a financial advisor. I'm not a financial advisor, but you know about dollar cost averaging. You don't chase after investments. I learned that not the hard way, but when I first started investing, I looked at what mutual fund was doing well, and I was trying to chase that return. Janus 20 and the Kaufman Fund and all that stuff. But the fact of the matter is that plan participants don't have the discipline that, let's say, we do, or a financial advisor does. They will lock in their losses. So immediately when it went to 125, 126,000, now it's at 59. How many participants who would have had access to Bitcoin would have locked in their losses? Quite a bit. It goes back to that law firm when, I knew a guy in the office and he's saying, Ari, I put all my money in the mid-cap fund because that's the middle of the market. And he believed that. And we sometimes, fiduciary prudence is all about understanding whether an investment belongs in a retirement environment where many participants don't understand basic, fundamental investment principles such as diversification, dollar cost averaging, all that kind of stuff. We, as plan providers and plan sponsors, have to protect participants from themselves. That's why I don't like brokerage accounts. That's why I certainly don't like a Bitcoin. To me, alternative investments, I would use it as a sleeve, but not as an option, meaning that, if you have a managed account and the managed account's got a 10% Bitcoin sleeve or whatever, it's far better than an entire Bitcoin option. Payroll providers here next are not automatically TPAs. Again, we have these payroll providers who want to be your all-in-one solution. You're sold one platform, one integration, fewer headaches, clean administration, and, you think it works, and often it doesn't. Knowing payroll doesn't make you a good TPA, because payroll and TPA are two different businesses. Sure, TPA work does involve payroll a little bit, but there's so much more to it. Simple plans are good fits for payroll provider TPAs. If they're safe harbor, if they're a one-person plan, they can't screw it up. But the moment you have eligibility, non-highly compensated employees, non-safe harbor, that's where things get screwy. A payroll provider that does TPA work is not the same as a seasoned TPA. And providers sell efficiency, and ultimately sponsors need to find the right fit. I think too often is how the issue is how the retirement industry defines best practices. And so often best practices simply means whatever is easiest for the provider to implement at scale. Standardization, if every plan was safe harbor that a TPA had, it's obviously a lot less work for them because they don't have to do ADP, ACP, top heavy. But it's not the same thing as good advice to a plan sponsor. A law firm, including a Fakakta law firm, a dying law firm with, I think they're down to 35 lawyers, they're going to have different needs than, the local pizzeria. That's not a knock against pizzerias, because I think pizzerias are better run than most mid-sized law firms. And it's a more enjoyable place to be at. I imagine not to work at, but to be at. But they have different retirement plan needs. Not everybody has the right fit. Not everybody has the same fit. A closely held family business is going to have different, needs than a technological group. A manufacturing company has different operational realities than medical practices. Yet providers frequently push identical solutions because selling standard products is easier than understanding complicated facts. That is efficiency for them, not strategy for the client. And the best providers in this business do something salespeople often hate. They say no. They may ask uncomfortable questions about payroll liability and ownership structure, testing risk, all that stuff. They challenge assumptions instead of validating every exciting idea. They can explain that a feature can be good in theory but terrible in application. Listen, that's what I do with the mega backdoor Roth strategy. I'm the turd in the punch bowl, and I'll say, this is not going to work out. Plan sponsors don't need every available plan design feature to prove they are modern. They need a plan that works consistently, minimize avoidable risk, aligns with the realities of their workforce and operations. Sometimes the smartest advice a provider that can offer is not a flashy recommendation. Sometimes it's simply saying, this is a bad fit for you. And that's why it's important to work with providers who knows that not everything out there is a fit. Back in the day when I wore suits, I've worn suits maybe 4 or 5 times in the last 6 years. Um, you know, I'm the type of guy that, if I pull a suit like right off the rack, I need substantial work on my suit. They got to fix the shoulders since I don't have any. Probably gonna, loosen the waist maybe. I don't know. I'm like a 30 now or whatever it is. And it's got to be constantly tailored. And that's how it is with a retirement plan. I'm not saying get a custom-made suit, but, you need to tailor the specifications of you as a company to your plan as you would if you're trying out, a suit. So hope that helps. And again, go to that 401ksite.com for further information on that at 401k National Virtual Conference in February, as well as going on Amazon for Kindle and paperback versions of the last 2 books. All 4 books are available in paperback, if I recall. And tune in next week for another fun-filled episode of that 401k podcast. Take care. Bye.